We're definitely having a great fall around here, but I'm intrigued. We're spending a little more time in northern Michigan lately around where Justin's from and his family are. I'm going to see if I can get into ice fishing or not, and then I'll report back what my new or not new favorite season is.
All right, well, we are going to transition to questions from everyone. If you have them, you can feel free to put them in the chat and I will read them out loud. Or you can unmute yourself and ask away that way also.
Just while questions are coming in for Liz to select from, I just want to say, obviously, hopefully now, if you haven't already, you know why I'm so excited about these candidates, but also the outreach that they're doing. It has been pretty cool to follow from afar. Choco's been and his team have been connecting with people in neighborhoods, going out, taking the message to voters in a safe way, of course. I saw firsthand how Hillary's connecting with voters as well, and you know, we're learning new forms of outreach right now. You know, GOTV will never be the same, even when the pandemic comes to an end. I think because we'll learn new combinations of virtual and in-person campaigning, and I absolutely love Alyssa's strategy of these gas station videos. In fact, I was talking it up on a call with some New Jersey candidates recently, and they were saying that wouldn't work here. I forgot it's a state where you're not allowed to pump your own gas. So it's just an example of an exquisitely regional approach. But last time I was pumping gas out around I think I was out around Big Rapids, and the little video was explaining how to make a tea out of banana peels. So those videos were ready for something a little more salient, and I'm glad you're on those screens. Liz, any questions come through?
Yeah, absolutely. What can people do to help all of our candidates in the next 13 days?
Jump in.
I'll start off and then you pass it around. So obviously, like, we're in Get Out the Vote, and because we can't knock as many doors, we are still doing contactless canvassing, but because we can't knock as many doors, like those phone call shifts, literally just doing 1 2-hour phone call shift and just doing a half an inch more than what people are used to doing in a normal election cycle is not only is it deeply helpful for us and for people to know, especially there's just so many people in Michigan who are just straight up apolitical. Like they're not interested. They don't like politics. They're not political junkies like you guys. They just are tuning in, and especially down ballot, like they haven't thought at all about who they're voting for down ballot. So doing a 2-hour shift, and I know all our teams can put into the chat, you know, how to sign up to volunteer. Also, it is literally the best free therapy you will get for the stress that we're all feeling right now in anticipation of the vote. If you haven't done it, I would encourage it. And then frankly, like the thing that I'm spending a lot of time planning for right now is voter protection on election day and making sure that we have people who are trained as observers. The Michigan Democratic Party will literally train you as a precinct poll observer through the traditional, like you have to be officially certified and trained. So that we make sure that people don't feel intimidated at the polls, that they can vote if they want to. But then also, if that's a little bit too much, you know, we know that certainly in some of our districts, there's going to be a strong presence at the polls, like that legal 100 feet away, and it can be very intimidating if you have 40 pro-Trump guys standing outside your precinct. It's kind of like running a gauntlet for some people, and it can be scary. It's important for them to see Democrats at these really like tough precincts. It's important for there to be people on both sides so they don't feel alone, so they don't feel intimidated. You can walk them to the poll if they feel intimidated. So getting involved in voter protection, I think, is kind of the next phase of help if you're willing to do it. Getting people coffee who are waiting in long lines. I cannot tell you guys how many people, like literally, if they could just have a slice of pizza at the MSU precincts or a cup of coffee or hot cocoa, would stay in those long COVID lines, but who might otherwise just be like, you know what, I'm not waiting in this thing. Think about all those voters who were losing. So getting involved election day too would help.
Yeah, similar in terms of opportunities, our phone banks, our text banks, our postcard writing. And I'm just going to say, just a few words about why, especially this is so important. You know, the story of Michigan in 2016 losing this district by, you know, less than 2 votes per precinct was not so much about persuasion, but about making sure that we found those Democrats and turned them out. And, you know, I know here in Kent County, which is the heart of my district, when we're looking at our polling numbers and what is going to make the difference, it is absolutely at this point turning out voters who we know are strong Democrats but have a low propensity to come out and vote. There is a wide difference for me to make up in terms of approval rating and where Joe Biden is at in our district, and people getting to know my name and wanting to increase enthusiasm and get those voters out. So when we're doing our target turnouts for texting and phone banking, it makes a huge difference. My race is literally, you know, we believe that it will be won probably by a handful of votes, the narrowest of margins. We were just moved to a toss-up today, as we mentioned. And we are so pleased by that. But I was with Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist earlier today, and he was doing some stumping, and he was like, a toss-up, you know what that means? I'm a basketball player. It means you got to just reach as high as you can, a little higher than you ever thought, just to get up over that next person. And that's really where we feel we are in these next 13 days. So anybody who can help just reach, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 more voters, it literally could make the difference in this election. Just get them to show up. So I know Liz or Sarah will put our volunteer link in the chat box there, and we'd love to have you.
Echo all of those sentiments to the highest degree. The only thing I would say differently is urgency. I'm pretty sure in all 3 of our races, people are voting. You can look at the numbers. So 30,000 voters voted in my district in 2018. As of this morning, 13,000 votes have already been cast. We're almost halfway of how many votes have already been cast. Now, we wish we could read into those numbers and say, okay, we can think 80 or 90% are for you, so we can start to inch toward our win number, but it's not that easy, because if you look at score distribution, there are some Republicans who are voting by mail right now. So right now is the most important time to get involved in any campaign you can, because the biggest thing that scared me and why I had to get involved, I don't want to wake up November 4th, 5th, or 6th, whenever we finally find out real accurate results, and think, crap, I didn't do enough. I didn't do as much as I could have done. I didn't do that extra phone bank shift. I didn't request postcards so I can send them out. So make sure you're doing as much as you can between now and election day, so that up and down the ticket we win. One of the great things about all 3 of our races, if we win, it's virtually impossible Trump carries Michigan. Virtually impossible. And my race specifically, once the West Michigan side starts going blue, you narrow pathways for a Republican to get in the White House. And that's the big picture game we're playing. We want to send John Hoadley to Congress. We want to send Gary Peters back to the United States Senate. We want to send Joe Biden to the White House, but also we want to take a majority in the Michigan House to give Gretchen Whitmer some allies in the state legislatures that she can work with. So if you can, please, I know my campaign manager put the link in the chat, sign up for 1 phone banking shift, request some postcards. We've been sending them. We have someone out in California who's been doing postcards for us. We are on the ground and ready to flip this seat, but we got to make sure we make every moment count.
Great. Mayor Pete, I know you're going to have to leave soon, so I was just hoping that you might be able to answer this one last question. It's from Sarah Kyle, who says that she has 3 young sons. So if you could talk a little bit about what you're doing on the campaign trail to reach out to, you know, young people and inspire kids to get involved in politics.
Yeah, you know, one of the things you see, especially when you begin your time of public service in local office, is the impact that young people can make. I've seen local bodies of government make decisions differently because people came to speak up, some of whom weren't even yet old enough to vote. And then for those who are old enough to vote, many are getting ready to cast their first votes in unprecedented historical circumstances. And there's a lot of people wondering whether it's worth it, especially young people who've been given every reason to be skeptical about whether the system can deliver for them at all. That's why it's so important to get out there with that message that your moment of voting is your moment of maximum power. in our American system. And if you think there are problems with the system, you're right. And your best chance to do something about it, the best way to make good on what you've been tweeting about, the best way to make good on what you've been protesting about, the best way to make good on what you care about is to actually express that in the one way that the system literally cannot ignore. The one way that actually goes into the hiring and firing of the people who lead our government at the state, local, and federal level. And that's your opportunity to vote. Not only that, but there's so many ways to make a difference through volunteering, through getting engaged digitally and in person. And a bunch of decisions are about to be made in the next couple of years that will really be irreversible. There's not a do-over on climate. There's not going to be a do-over on so many of the issues that we face. So whatever is most important to your life, racial and economic justice, climate change, making sure we beat this pandemic, restoring America's role in the world, fixing our democracy itself, all of that's on the ballot. And this is your best chance to do something about it, because the longer you're planning to be here, the more you have at stake in a bunch of decisions that are about to be made that can't be taken back. That's the message. And I hope that we see unprecedented levels of young people getting involved, because that will be very, very good news.
Great. Does anyone else want to comment on that question?
I'm going to try to speak for young people here. We're fired up. There are so many people who are contacting me every day saying, I just cast my first ballot for you. Unprecedented numbers out of Benton Harbor, St. Joe, across racial lines of people saying that, Chokwe, you have inspired me to think that I could even have a voice in this crazy system. There are people who said, you're the only person I'm voting for on the ballot. Now, I talked to a few of those people, like, look, I got a few other people that you should probably check the box for. But you don't know how much impact it makes, especially as a younger person, getting involved in politics and showing your community that is not just an old boys club, that women, people of color, everyone can get involved in politics in a big way, not just as field organizers, not to downplay them. I was one at one point, but you can run for office. If you have that ego or that conception that you can change this, get involved, run for something. The run for something was one of my first endorsements. And what we talked about was that young people, with all of the Twitter and tweets that we put out, we got to put that to work. We got to get it on paper. We have got to start pushing our voice, because only at that point will you be heard. And then as people in office, especially when I get there, we got to then bring young people into the process fully and ask for input on bills and legislation and what's happening in Lansing and in Washington, because then at that point, younger people feel like they have a buy-in. And then they'll be more engaged and they'll bring more friends, and then you'll start vote tripling, and then you'll start to see turnout like we've never seen before.
Great. Well, Mayor, I know that you have to run to your next thing, and I know Congresswoman you do as well. So, Mayor, do you want to say any closing words?
Sure, I'll be real brief. Just again, you see the quality of leadership that we have. It's why it's so important that we return Alyssa Slack into Congress, send Hillary Skolden to be there at her side, and get Coach Chokwe Pitchford elected, who is literally walking the walk of young people getting involved. I thought I was a youngster in politics, but we see a new generation stepping forward, and that's fantastic news. These are the days and the weeks and the votes and the moments that we're going to be remembering for a very long time. And I think we're all going to look back with a lot of pride on the fact that we were part of these campaigns. So thanks everybody for your generosity, your attention, your time. And here's hoping we got a lot to celebrate by the next time we're coming together to talk about Michigan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much. Thanks, Mayor Pete.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, guys.